honeybee. And ooh, there's an ivy bee. They look like really kind of clean, crisp, sort of pinstriped. There's another ivy bee, and they fold their abdomens sort of right round. Oh, there's a fly. But honeybees, oh, there's an ivy bee. You can see she's got her abdomen kind of really curled round in a sort of C shape, whereas honeybees are a bit more, they stay a bit sort of straighter on the flower. There's a honeybee down there. They've also got a completely different pitch of buzz. Yeah, so these are ivy bees, doing, like the name suggests, foraging on ivy. This is a really big stand. Oh, there's a hornet, see that? Hunting ivy bees and honeybees and wasps. Big beastie. So this big stand of ivy in the sunshine. See, there's a fly with a ivy bee on the next clump. Completely different way of feeding flies have. Oh, here's the hornet again. So hornets will forage on the nectar, but they're more here to catch the insects because they like protein in the form of meat, effectively, whereas bees get their protein from pollen. Here you can see the ivy flowers themselves, really quite beautiful. Some more ones coming out. It's an amazing hornet. Really low hum from her. Yeah, really big stand of ivy here. If you've got flowering ivy, you know, I can't remember how old ivy needs to be before it does start flowering, but if you have got ivy, a large stand of ivy, do let it flower, because it's so valuable for insects. And of course at the moment there isn't insects all over it, but soon there'll be berries, and also they provide tremendous cover for birds and, oh, there's an ordinary wasp. Oh, just standing there, I don't think you can see that one. Sorry, yes, so the ivy, the foliage, you know, provides brilliant cover for birds nesting. So it's all round brilliant plant, really. Lots of people chop it down because they think it damages their buildings, but it's sort of doesn't really warrant that that sort of persecution, if you like. So if you do have ivy, please keep it. Just trying to see if I can see a wasp. Oh, there's a wasp. Ooh, down there. She's hiding in all the... She's going right in the foliage, but obviously there's a different type of fly over there. I'm very conscious that this is the edge of the bridge. I don't, just in my desire to try and spot some insects, I end up toppling into the river. Let me see. Oh, here's a little hoverfly. All jostling for position. Now, it's a sad fact that a lot of people, much as they like bees, they really don't like wasps. And this is rather a shame because actually wasps do a huge amount of good in the environment. And to be honest, I mean, I keep bees, I'm a beekeeper, but my honeybees are actually kind of not really native and not meant to be here, whereas wasps very much are native and really should be here. So sort of prioritising bees over wasps isn't really fair, given that actually the wasps were kind of meant to be here first. So yeah, I mean, people say, oh, what's the point of wasps? They eat all sorts of aphids and grubs and bugs and, yeah, bees and flies and spiders. They'll fly in and take a spider out the middle of its web. Absolutely fascinating ecology. They build their nests every year from paper, as you probably know. You can't really see, I did take a bit of footage, but just up here in the eaves of my house, just above my landing window there, I've got a wasp's nest. And you know, it's been really interesting watching them. They're very, very different to bees. And I just wanted to sort of, you know, give a bit of a shout out for the wasps, really. Again, as with so many things, it's not really, you know, their fault that they happen to like the same things as we do. See, if you're, you know, not going to be providing natural food for them like aphids and bugs and things that I listed before, we've got to be a bit careful about blaming them for wanting our food if we're not leaving them enough natural food. So it's yet another reason to not use insecticides and pesticides in your garden, because the wasps will come and do a really good job of clearing up the pests for you. So yeah, hornets as well. Hornets are absolutely fascinating, brilliant creatures, and we've really got to be very careful. There's a massive decline in insect numbers of all species, and we've got to be really careful we're not sort of like, oh well, they matter but they don't, because who knows where we're going to be in 10 years time with the insects. So yeah, just leave your wasps alone. They're, you know, they don't do any harm. Yes, they can sting, but then, you know, not if you're not swatting at them. So yeah, I just wanted to give a little bit of a PR plug for the wasps. You can't really see, but the whole wall is absolutely bouncing with wasps. There's probably about 50 up there, and these are the male wasps, and they're waiting for the queens to emerge so they can mate with them. So that's where they're sort of you can't really see, which is really annoying because it's really clear for me. But there's lots and lots of wasps just bouncing against the bricks trying to find a way in. So yeah, these are all the males just waiting for the new queens to emerge. I'm going to make a sourdough loaf, but a kind of cakey loaf with some of my discarded sourdough starter. So I fed my starter this morning so I could make some actual sourdough, and that's on the go there. And I've got my starter which I haven't fed again. So I'm going to use some of this discarded, or some of the discard, to make this it's kind of a tea loafy cake thing. It's quite a good idea to like take quite a lot of your starter out sometimes and make something with the you know, make something else with the starter apart from bread, because sometimes, especially if you're not baking really regularly and you just kind of keep feeding your starter, it gets a bit kind of bloated and unresponsive. And so I find it quite a good idea to occasionally make a loaf and then make something with the starter before I refresh it again, just to kind of give it a bit of a, you know, bit of reinvigoration. So I do suggest you maybe scatter around. There's hundreds of recipes online for things to do with your unrefreshed starter. So I would suggest you do that, because it tends to kind of, it really peps up your starter next time you go to use it. So for this recipe, it's a plum sourdough cake from the Gingered Whisk, I think. I have to look that up. I'll put it in the description box. But anyway, so it just involves, I mean, it's a cup measurement one. I've put my mini oven on and I'm just heating up the butter in there so it melts a little bit. I'm not too worried about it being properly melted, but I do want it quite a lot softer than it is already. So I'm going to get on, I need half a cup of starter, unrefreshed starter, and it's got some yoghurt in it. She's using Greek yoghurt, which is obviously a lot thicker than this just natural yoghurt, but then my starter is quite a thick starter, so I'm hoping the liquid won't be too much of a problem. So, and then it's got oats and flour and a little bit of brown sugar in it as well, and also some lemon zest. These are green because apparently they need loads of sunshine to go yellow, and these obviously haven't. And it's also got some almond essence in it, so I'm quite curious to see what it's like, but I think it'll be really yummy. The first thing I need to do is cut up the plums. I've got some organic plums here which came in my veg box. So the first thing I need to do is cut up the plums and toss them in some flour, so that should stop them sinking when I'm making the cake. Fingers crossed. So I'm going to just put a tablespoon of flour in with these and just stir them around to coat them. That'll soak up the moisture and mean they hopefully don't, as I said, sink to the bottom of the cake, which is what can happen if you've got sort of quite heavy, damp, dense fruit in a cake mixture. So for the batter, I've got to use half a cup of starter, which is about 2 sort of tablespoons, like that. Just going to feed this. So next I'm going to put in half a cup. My cup's being used for the butter, so I'm just going to put in 2/4 cups, because I'm good at maths, me, of brown sugar. Then I need, how much? Half a cup of yoghurt. And then half a cup of butter, which is going to be hot. Then I need 1 egg, teaspoon of almond, and the zest of a lemon. So I'm now going to whisk this to make a smooth batter. So that's nicely whisked. I just leave that there to drip while I measure out the dry ingredients. So it's really simple. I just need a cup of flour, and this is a recipe where you do the wet ingredients and then you add the dry. So I'm just going to measure these out and then tip them all in at once. And then a cup of porridge oats. Watch me spill them all over the kitchen. There we go. And then she uses half teaspoon of baking bicarb, but I don't have any, so I'm going to use 2 teaspoons of baking powder. And half teaspoon of salt. Where's my salt? I quite like these sort of semi-sweet loaves because they make a nice snack when you don't want something overly sweet, and they're sort of, obviously with the sourdough, you know, and oats, they should be quite sort of nutritious, and sort of thing that my daughter, no idea if she's going to touch this with a 10-foot pole, but anyway, if she wants to take a slice in her with her to college wrapped up in some beeswax, then that's something she could do. So yeah, I'm just going to put in the dry ingredients and fold them in. I'll then add the plums, and I had 4 plums, so I'll cut 3 and dice them and put them in with the flour. And then I've got the remaining plum here, which I've sliced, and I'm going to put that on top of the cake once I've put it in the tin. I'm using a £2 loaf tin, which I've lined, buttered with and lined with greaseproof paper. So I'm just folding this in quite gently. I don't want to knock all the air out of it. And I'm going to pop in the, oh, it smells lovely of almonds. Put a big waft then. And then pop in my plums. And again, just fold them in. There's quite a lot of mixture actually. The plums are quite large, so I probably could have just done with putting 2 in, but we'll see. If it explodes all over the oven, it explodes all over the oven. Here we go. As I said, quite a lot of mixture. I've got a nice feeling that's going to leak, but I didn't want to sort of squash it down too much because the recipe says don't pat it down. So hopefully as the plums soften, the cake mixture will fill the bottom of the tin a bit more effectively. That's going in at 180. I've just got a sort of regular cake setting, not the fan. And that will go in for, I'll probably put it on for getting on for an hour and come and check it in a little while. So I filmed this slightly back to front, but you saw the little the pellet that I had, and I've consulted my book, which is this one, which they're really easily available, and if you're into this kind of thing, I got this for like £2 from eBay. But anyway, so having consulted my Prebin and Prebin animals, tracks and signs, I deciphered that this owl pellet was actually from a little owl. So it was quite different. You saw that it was quite sort of grey and narrow and cylindrical. So unlike the barn owl pellet, which is much sort of rounder and it has a sort of coating on it, and you know is full of sort of fur and skulls. As you saw from this one, there's a lot of grey sort of just kind of looks a little bit like loft insulation actually. But it's actually, little owls eat a lot of earthworms, and so it's actually the kind of just the clay from inside worms. Lots of these, which are kind of beetle grubs basically. You can see the head and the sort of desiccated body. And sorry, my cat's down there about to come in and be annoying. So and lots of grasshopper heads, bits of grasshopper. And so that's all in keeping with a little owl pellet, which is really exciting because I have heard little owls, but I haven't seen one around here. And as the name suggests, they're quite little. And I hear a lot of tawny owls, and obviously I've seen the barn owls, but I've never seen a little owl, and the call is quite similar to a tawny owl, so I couldn't really be sure whether it's a tawny or a little owl that I'm hearing sometimes. There's also the few little stones in here. So all birds take in stones in order to help them grind their food. It's kind of like their teeth in their gizzard. And so I found a few little stones. But it's been absolutely fascinating looking through this, and it's so different from the barn owl pellets, which is just all bones and fur. This has got a lot of, as I said, this kind of clay basically, and just insect parts. There's no bones in here at all, just the harder parts of the exoskeleton of the insects they've eaten. So like I said, that's all in keeping with what a little owl will be eating. So it's really interesting to pick these pellets apart. I know it might seem a bit weird, but I was really pleased to find it because I just sort of happened to be walking along and I thought, oh, okay, that looks like a pellet. But it's obviously the same colour as the soil, so I was really lucky to find it. And yeah, it's been really interesting looking at the different, just comparing the different owl pellets, because it's such a good indicator of what the birds are eating. So I hope you found that interesting, and I'll look out for some more pellets. It'd be great to find a buzzard pellet perhaps, or a tawny owl pellet. And so yes, I'll be keeping my eyes open and seeing what I can see when I'm out on my walks. That concludes the vlog. I hope you enjoyed it. Next week I will have my puppy who's arriving on Friday, so I'm going to have to see quite how much I get done, but fingers crossed I'll be back next week with probably some bite marks in my hands and fingers and nose. But anyway, I look forward to seeing you next week with more updates from Shawpits.